魔導王とは相性がいいから勝てるだけさ。
You serious?
What's going on, everyone, and I'm back again for another episode breakdown of the world's finest MMORPG player gets reincarnated in another world as an Overlord Season 4. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest with everyone here. This was the episode in the part of the volume that I was so excited, the most excited to get adapted into an anime, and I was just bursting at the seams. But we got it, and they took almost the whole episode for it, which I was so grateful that they did. Okay, just like last week, we're gonna take a structured approach to this. We're gonna do it chronologically, but oh man, I want to get into that fight. So starting off this episode, we have that quick scene with Ramposa, and this is just kind of giving you context on what I told you last week regarding what happened with Ramposa and how Zanuck kind of quietly took over the country because Ramposa just kept insisting on a diplomatic solution and that wasn't possible. And this is just showing you like what's going on, and he's now aware of Zanuck's demise, and you know, he's pretty much resigned himself to the fact that this is the end of the Riestes kingdom. A small scene, but I do see why it was necessary because that helped fill in the gap for people that, you know, don't watch videos like mine. So in the next scene after that, we had that scene with the Eight Fingers members, and we see a character we haven't seen since season 2, which is Coco Doll. And if you remember, Coco Doll was actually arrested by Climb and Brain when they defeated Succulent in season 2. And so actually something that goes unexplained in the anime as to why they were able to get Coco Doll out of jail. So actually what's going on in Riestes at this point is they actually released all their prisoners so that they could draft them into the military for, you know, this final assault on the royal capital. That's how desperate the Riestes kingdom is at this point. They are releasing their prisoners to draft them into the army. During the confusion of this process in like the first early days of it, Eight Fingers decided to take this chance to rescue Coco Doll. And actually what's going on is that Nazarick tasked Eight Fingers with choosing around 1,000 people from Riestes to take with them to the Sorcerer Kingdom as like the designated survivors of the Riestes kingdom. And this is where Coco Doll finally sees like the drastic shift in personality amongst the Eight Fingers members, especially in particular Hilma. So he's just seeing this shocking transformation. He's also commenting on how they've all lost weight, and I didn't notice this either in the anime before, but if you actually look at all the character designs, like I actually was just comparing them to Coco Doll. In Hilma, I noticed it because I saw what she looked like and noticed what she looked like before this season. Like I remember what she looked like in season 2, but for the other guys and Hilma in this episode, you can see like their bones, their facial bones are all like coming in and they're like pressing out because they've lost so much weight. I know for a fact in the light novel it's that like Hilma can't eat solid food anymore, so she's like just lost a lot of weight, and I guess that applies to the rest of them because Coco Doll's like, are you guys all on a diet or something? Like what's going on with you guys? And so Shalltear takes them all back to the Sorcerer Kingdom, and actually what's going on is they're actually building a village in the Sorcerer Kingdom for the Riestes people to live in, which I wasn't expecting. Like that actually seems like pretty good accommodation, but they provided them with food, and they also provided them with undead as like laborers and protection. So like they pretty much have all they need. So they're not treating these people brutally. You know, they're providing them with all their necessities, and they're just like, hey, we're working on building housing for you guys. So it's kind of like weird. Like they're just like, okay, yeah, these guys are destroying our kingdom, but they're also like, you know, giving us everything we need. And then Shalltear takes Coco Doll for his indoctrination. I think that's how they described it in the light novel. What I thought was kind of entertaining about this scene is just how casual Shalltear is about like, are you an Eight Fingers executive? Okay, you gotta come with me. You gotta go to Kyohuko. And they did it to all the other Eight Fingers members too. So like they basically just see it as the necessary process to get these guys on their side. Even though Coco Doll probably would have done what they said anyway, they just decided to do it for, you know, whatever. Like he's like pleading with the other Eight Fingers executives, like save me from this, but they all view it as like a rite of passage too now. So like they were just like, you know what, he's not gonna die, like let's just view it as like a trial by fire, and then he'll officially be one of us. This is just showing you that these Eight Fingers guys have changed a lot from how they were in season 2, if you didn't already know that. And so moving on, we have the main bulk of the episode. So just a really quick comment here, we see Cocytus and Mare marching to the royal capital with you know, a force of Nazarick denizens, and what I just noticed was that we finally get to see the Frost versions animated, which I thought was cool. What the Frost versions are basically like Cocytus's personal bodyguard and like his subordinates on the 85th floor. I believe they're level 82. I think they're in the 80s, I think. And it was just cool to see them designed in the anime and come to life, you know, just because I had read about them in the light novel. So that was cool. But then we move on to the main event, which is the confrontation between Ainz and Albedo and Azuth and PDL. And if you guys haven't watched any of my other videos where I mentioned Platinum Dragonlord, I refer to Platinum Dragonlord as PDL just for, you know, conciseness, so I will be calling him PDL from now on. So yeah, I use the air quotes around Ainz because it's revealed at the end of the episode it's not actually Ainz during this entire scene, it's Pandora's actor acting as his body double. And I actually spent some time like reading some stuff online about people's reaction to this episode and things like that, just like getting a general thoughts of, you know, the fan base. And it turns out a lot of people kind of figured out that it was Pandora's actor early on, mainly from the conversation that happened between Ainz and Albedo before the actual fight happened. Just the way Albedo was speaking to Ainz at that moment kind of gave it away. Another big red herring was the fact that you couldn't see the red orb like underneath his skeleton, which is always constantly there. In case you guys didn't know, that is a world item, and it's something that Ainz always has on him, so that was a big giveaway that it's not Ainz, because, you know, Ainz always has the red orb. So the whole conversation starts with the appearance of Azuth, and I feel like this episode did a better job of showing what the armor is actually capable of. And another thing I wanted to comment on is, yeah, it's not Azuth that is strong. It's the armor that's strong. In the light novel, it's described as tens of Death Knights, but I guess they just shorten the amount in the anime. But the armor is able to store tiered spells, and from what I read in the light novel, it can store up to 10th tier spells. So you can put a 10th tier spell in that armor, but he uses Chain Dragon Lightning, which is a 7th tier spell, and then he was able to cast that fire magic, and whatever the anime showed you, it did actually do damage to Ainz and Albedo. It was a negligible amount, but he was actually able to hurt them with the armor. And so then he's chased down by Albedo, and it's very obvious to Albedo that this is a diversionary tactic. But as it's revealed at the end of the episode, this was all part of a plan. That's why Pandora's actor was there in the first place as a body double, and that's why Albedo went along with this whole thing. And that's when Albedo also realizes that the armor and Azuth aren't capable of defeating her. But then we move on to the main confrontation. I'm just gonna keep calling him Ainz for this, just know I mean Pandora's actor. And so here's the thing, I was thinking about how I wanted to break down this fight between PDL and Ainz, and the thing is that, you know, in order to actually give you guys an explanation as to like what's happening in this fight, I have to go a little bit into the mechanics of PDL's power. I won't go crazy into detail because I actually want to do an explained video on PDL's power, which is wild magic. I'm not counting this as spoiler related because I'm just explaining a mechanic. I'm not going into anything like plot related, but I'm not going to go in depth either. I'm saving a super in-depth explanation for a potential explained video. So as far as cut content, there were a few things in like certain like kind of internal things that were cut out of the light novel, but for the most part, the fight itself followed the structure of the light novel. So really something that's shown very greatly in the light novel that isn't shown as much in the anime is how much Pandora's actor is breaking down and analyzing PDL during this entire fight. It really shows in the light novel how smart Pandora's actor is. You know, he acts like a fool and everything like that. He has a very bombastic personality, but he's actually one of the most intelligent NPCs in Nazarick. And in the light novel, with all his thoughts and how every move that PDL makes, like Pandora's actor is like breaking it down, like, okay, wait, he's doing this, and like, wait a minute, his HP bar, the weapons have HP bars. Like, oh, what does this mean exactly? Just how analytical Pandora's actor is being in this entire fight is shown way more in the light novel, and it really gives you a insight into how intelligent this you know being really is. So PDL is what's known as a true Dragon Lord. I mentioned this in the last arc, but what differentiates a true Dragon Lord from a false Dragon Lord like the White Dragon Lord we saw in the previous arc is that true Dragon Lords are capable of using a magic called wild magic. And wild magic was the dominant system of magic in the New World before tier magic. And the thing about wild magic is that it's the magic of the Dragon Lords, and it operates on an entirely different system. So wild magic doesn't actually operate through the use of mana, which is why PDL had no mana reserves in his armor. Wild magic functions through the use of souls as fuel for the spells. This functions a little differently when PDL is controlling his armor, and basically the spells are fueled by the armor's own HP pool. That's why Ainz Ainz was able to observe HP drops every time that PDL cast a spell, and that's also why the spells that PDL was using, Ainz had never seen them before or heard about them or didn't know how they worked, is because they are wild magic. And honestly, wild magic can kind of do anything. If you have enough souls to power a wild magic spell, you can pretty much do whatever you want. One of wild magic's greatest weaknesses, though, is world items, and that's why Albedo was able to break through the barrier, is because she has Ganyunagap. But that's what was going on behind the scenes with all the stuff that the armor was doing, and why like the weapons themselves had their own HP pool, because this armor is basically PDL, and the weapons are considered extensions of the body itself, so they all have their own health bars. So I guess the one big thing that was omitted from this fight is basically showing off more of PDL's powers and his kind of resistances, because the things that are cut from this fight is that Ainz keeps hitting this armor with like spells. The Elemental Skull actually fought in the light novel, and he was also casting spells at the armor as well, but the thing is the armor was just able to fight through it because first of all, it's an armor, it's controlled remotely. Second of all, it was theorized by Ainz at this point that the armor has abnormally high magic resistance. Also, towards the end of the fight, Ainz attempted to use a time stop spell, but it had no effect on PDL. Another thing that happened is that when he was fighting the Doom Lord, Ainz cast a negative burst in order to power up the Doom Lord because he feeds off negative energy, but it also did not do any damage to PDL. And also another thing is that Ainz cast a very high level invisibility spell to try and sneak attack, but he was also able to see through it. So this is showing you that PDL does have a lot of abilities. He's able to bypass certain time stop spells. He has immunity to negative energy of a certain level. He can see through invisibility spells. He's got a lot of power. This is like the strongest thing that anyone from Nazarick has fought in the New World up to this point. And not only is PDL like extraordinarily strong by New World standards, he's also got this wild magic, which they have no information on. I thought that even though they cut some things out of it, I thought they did a fantastic job adapting it, and that it took up the majority out of the episode, which is what I was hoping for. And something that went unsaid, but I think can be inferred just from how the fight went and what Pandora's Actor was actually doing as Ainz, is that Pandora's Actor was fighting under a lot of restrictions. He wasn't using certain spells, he was using lower level equipment, he didn't have a world item on him, that's why he was caught by the barrier. There was a lot of things that weakened Pandora's Actor in this fight. If he was fighting at full strength, it might have gone differently. But it was just cool to see, a level 100 being fighting against a, sort of close-ish, level-ish creature, and see a fight that goes back and forth like that at this power level. It was cool to see that. I said I liked seeing the even fight in episode 9, and I did, but the scale of the fight now is a lot higher, and that's just a lot more enjoyable to see. Hey guys, it's me in post, and I just wanted to say that in the next bit of the video, I start going into the lore of the New World and also the history of Platinum Dragonlord as I know it as a light novel reader. And I guess when I was filming this, I just forgot to give a spoiler warning, but I guess this stuff could definitely be viewed as spoilers because I kind of go into a bit of lore about the New World and the history of PDL. So if you guys are not interested in hearing that because you view that kind of information as spoilers, you can skip to the timestamp you see on screen. Sorry about that, and I appreciate it. And so another thing I wanted to actually talk about really quickly is the name that PDL gives to Ainz, Riku, and we know Riku is a Japanese name. So it's mentioned in the anime actually, but in case you guys didn't pick up on this, PDL was actually a member of the legendary group of New World people known as the 13 Heroes. They fought against a group called the Evil Deities, or the Demon Gods, I think is another translation of it. That happened around 200 years ago in the New World timeline. PDL was a member alongside Regret and Evil Eye. Evil Eye was also another member. And another thing about the 13 Heroes is that there was actually 2 players that was in the group as well, and one of the players ended up becoming the leader of the 13 Heroes, and what I believe is that his name was Riku, and so that's why PDL came up with that name immediately. And also at the end of the fight you see PDL saying that oh Riku, he's actually thinking about Riku, the name Riku. He doesn't say anything, but the way he says Riku, and he's like, my hands are already stained with blood. I've had this theory for a long time now about what actually happened to the the leader of the 13 heroes, because it's said that he died before their journey could be completed. And my theory about it is that PDL killed him because PDL is afraid of players. And here's some background information about that, and it's kind of alluded to a little bit in the scene where PDL is standing above Ainz, and he explains that, like, oh, the reason the new world is tainted, the reason for all this evil is because of us. And the thing about that is that apparently Platinum Dragon Lord's father, who is called the Dragon Emperor, he is the reason that there are players in the new world in the first place. It's never explained exactly how or why this is happening, but apparently the Dragon Emperor and, you know, the Dragon Lords are the reason why there are players. And Platinum Dragon Lord is an ancient Dragon Lord. He was around about 500 years ago when there was another group of players that were transported to the new world called the 8 Greed Kings. And during that time, the 8 Greed Kings and the Dragon Lords actually went to war with one another, and this resulted in the Dragon Lords being driven to near extinction. Platinum Dragon Lord was one of the few that, you know, was able to live through this whole conflict. But what went on with the 8 Greed Kings is one of the main reasons why PDL fears and distrusts players so much. It's made obvious at the end of the episode that PDL is aware of players and he knows the terms, and I believe he learned those terms from the leader of the 13 heroes. So the fight ends very abruptly once Albedo breaks through the barrier, and PDL has to pretty much retreat immediately. And because of this, and also because of Pandora's actor limiting himself, they were able to fill PDL with all this wrong information. PDL now thinks that Albedo is actually the player because he thinks Albedo is stronger than Ainz. Also, he thinks, like Pandora's actor, who even at his max can only use 80% of Ainz's stats, is like what Ainz's current strength level is, which is not true at all. He is just way wrong in his assessment of Ainz's strength, and this is exactly what they were trying to do. And then we have that short conversation between PDL and Azuth, and the one thing I want to comment about on that is just how casually PDL was just like, you know what, Azuth isn't really all that strong. Maybe I should kill him and give it to someone else. And that just goes to show you that while PDL, you know, I'm here to protect the new world and all that stuff, he's gonna do what it takes to get the upper hand. You know, he's not above, you know, replacing Azuth if he can find someone more useful, you know. And that's the thing about PDL, is that he's such a powerful being in the new world. I think Regret even said that he's probably the strongest creature in the new world. Definitely one of the strongest Dragon Lords. I don't know if he's the strongest new world creature. I don't know about that. But he's for sure one of the strongest. Not to mention, he's also the head of the Argland Council State. So he has responsibilities. And, you know, he's not going to let, you know, some, you know, morally questionable decisions keep him from doing what he has to do. And basically the end of the episode shows you that the plan went off without a hitch. This is exactly what they wanted. They were trying to draw out strong individuals. They were waiting for someone like this to make a move, and honestly, from what's described in the light novel, they were waiting for this ever since they saw the appearance of the armor in episode 9. And the ironic thing about it is that by appearing in Inaril during episode 9, Azuth kind of shot this whole plan in the foot, because the sudden appearance of Azuth made Ainz and everyone else a little bit more on guard about these random figures just popping up because of the invasion, and that's what led to Ainz being more cautious and using Pandora's as a body double. So really, you know, Azuth coming in to save Inaril kind of just basically sabotaged the plan before it even started. But anyway, this was a very long explanation just because there was a lot of things I wanted to talk about. I really wanted to talk about PDL because he's just such an interesting creature because of how long he's lived and the things he's been through. He's basically a living embodiment of the New World's history, and in the light novel you learn so much about him, and like you can infer so many things, and a lot of this stuff about like the history of like the 13 heroes and the 8 Greek kings, a lot of that stuff is not confirmed. It's more of just like theories and stuff, but it's still really interesting to theorize about, and there's a lot of working theories online. Like honestly guys, you could spend quite a bit of time just like going on like Overlord Reddits and just reading some of these theories that the fan base has come up with. They're absolutely amazing. And so with the failed assassination of Ainz, as stated by Azuth and PDL, the fall of the Riestes kingdom is now a foregone conclusion. Now that PDL has lost his chance, he's basically decided that there's no one that can stop Ainz from destroying the kingdom. And so with that, we move on to the final struggle of the royal capital of Riestes. And so guys, I hope you're looking forward to this, because we are getting into the wrap up of this war and, you know, this final assault. And next episode we're going to be seeing it, and I'm really excited to show what is actually going to go down during this invasion. So I hope you guys enjoyed this breakdown, and if you did, please don't forget to hit that like button on your way out. If you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel. It helps me out more than you know, and it'll let you know when I post in the future. With that being said, I want to thank you all for watching to the very end of the video, and I will see you all next time. Bye.